Welcome, 5th and 6th grade. We're going to start off with our sniglet of the week. I chose this one called Wimbledon. It's a noun, and it's a made-up word for that green, yellow fuzz on tennis balls. You may or may not follow tennis in the sports news, but Wimbledon is where they normally play. And so Wimbledon, I guess, Wimbledon, Dawn, like they're wearing something. And so they combined those two words to make Wimbledon, the fuzz on tennis balls. So enjoy that one. That one's very practical. This is our Shakespeare quote. It is a great quote. You've probably heard it shortened, though. Someone might say, oh, she was in stitches about blah, blah, blah. Or, oh, it was so funny he was in stitches. That comes from this phrase, laugh oneself into stitches, from the 12th night. But it has to do with laughing. When someone says they're in stitches, unless they're referring to real stitches, they're referring to this. And then our Proverbs of the day is Proverbs 26:22. It says, the words of the talebearer are like tasty trifles, and they go down into the inmost body. What a vivid, colorful way of describing someone talking about things they shouldn't. If you're the listener, it makes it sound like you love to hear these juicy little nuggets about people that you probably don't need to be listening to. Words are important, and sometimes they might even taste good or sound good, but what they're communicating is not good. So we're looking at lots of ways to use words in this class. All right, for today's topic, this is one of the most important topics. If you can learn this and get it down really well, you can take this all the way through college with all the essays you'll be writing, no matter what your major is. So pay attention. Here we go. We're going to talk about the perfect topic sentence. I'm going to give you a formula. This formula actually is very similar to my thesis formula, which you may or may not know what a thesis is yet, but it's very similar to this. So we're going to start off by talking about what goes where. So in my formula, I have an S here that represents the subject. I'll pick a cooler color. How about blue? And then we're going to talk about the verb in this formula. So we're going to start off with the subject. You should, for a strong, foolproof topic sentence, you should pick the subject of your paragraph to be the subject of your topic sentence. Now that sounds kind of common sense, but it isn't. So let's pretend we're writing a paragraph on squirrels. Then I'm going to start off with my topic sentence being squirrels as my subject. That's so easy. When it gets complicated is when you're writing on complicated topics. Maybe I'm writing on the theme of the ship motif in a certain book. Then I'm going to do my best to put the ship motif as my subject of my thesis or my topic sentence in this case. So I'm going to give you some, part of our homework this week is to have some pretend topic sentences, although you should work very hard on these because they might turn into a paragraph later, or maybe even an essay. So if you're writing on squirrels, you should have squirrels in the subject. If you're writing on the effects of being out in the sun, then let's make that our subject. The effects of being out in the sun, of staying out in the sun. That's a horrible phrase, but we're going to keep it simple today. So the subject of our paragraph should be the subject of our topic sentence. But further, our verb, we have a couple of rules for our verbs in my class. All of you should have already learned your be verbs. I'm going to say them real quick for you. Am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. Did you know I learned those in at least, it may have been 5th grade. That was when I learned the rap. It might have been earlier, but am, is, are, was, were, be, being, been. So those are your be verbs. We want to avoid stand-alone be verbs. I put be verbs there, but what I'm implying is be verbs by themselves. So, in other words, I don't want to write a sentence like this. Squirrels are. Ugh. Squirrels are blank. You know what? There are a lot of topic sentences that start off that way. But we are going to try to make something interesting. Let's say something interesting about squirrels. I really kind of got myself in a bind here. I don't know anything about squirrels. I should have chosen a better topic. Maybe we say squirrels terrorize. And maybe you would put us. Now, why I like to put a plus or negative sign here by the verb. Not only are we trying to avoid be verbs, we're trying to make this sentence not just a verbal equals in these formula terms. We don't just want to say squirrels are awesome, if that's your perspective. Are would be like an equal sign. Squirrels, awesome, awesome squirrels. It doesn't really help us say anything meaningful. So when I put a plus or minus here, I wanted to say something, I want to pick a verb that either says something positive or interesting or something negative or uninteresting, but it tells me some information about this actual subject I'm talking about. So you could say squirrels terrorize, or you could say squirrels busy themselves. Squirrels busy themselves with, and you'd finish the sentence. Squirrels make. You could even say make. Make is kind of neutral, but it's better than a be verb. And you know where I'm going with this. A mess. We have some squirrels that terrorize. I wouldn't say they terrorize us. They're just pests. Okay, but let's go back to our verb conversation. So we want to pick a verb. We want to avoid a standalone be verb. We need to choose active voice. We talked about that last week. So no passive voice. So we don't want to start off our whole paragraph by saying squirrels were seen, because that would be passive, right? Squirrels were seen by blah, blah, blah. Well, that doesn't really tell me a lot about squirrels. They're the passive one in this story. Really, more commonly what happens, would be if we're writing a topic on squirrels, we might put them here instead of the subject. Not a good idea. And we are using a passive verb. Our apples were eaten by the squirrels. Now, if I'm going to talk about squirrels for a whole paragraph, why am I putting them here at the end? They're not very important there at the end. They really need to be in the spot of the apples. In fact, if I were to read this sentence, I would think that my whole paragraph is going to be about apples, how they get eaten by the squirrels and how they keep rotting before we get to them, and the deer get them, and the bugs get them. Maybe I'm talking about our apples. So whatever you're going to talk about in your paragraph, it needs to be the subject of your first sentence, and your verb needs to be strong. So we're going to do a little bit of practice, and then you're going to do it on your own. So let me show you your homework. And if your parents are watching, it will be worth 5 points. Write 5 topic sentences on these topics. Parents, you can double the points if you want to also, if you want to count it as double. There are a couple ways you can do that. So here's a topic sentence. The first one characteristic about your mom. Now I'm going to give you an example about a made-up mom. And we're going to follow our formula. Are you ready? Mom. Now I could say is awesome. No, that's not going to be a great paragraph. Mom is the best. Nope. I'm going to pick one characteristic and focus on it. It could be a skill, or it could be something that is special about her. So in this case, I'm going to say Mom bakes. And then I'm going to finish my sentence by telling you something about her bakes, but something that's general enough that I can write a whole paragraph about it. Mom bakes. I'm going to use a simile, like a pro. Actually, it's not really a simile. It's just telling you how she bakes. Mom bakes like a pro. Now, I could write a whole paragraph on this. Now I say she can bake this cake and this one. And not only do they taste good, but they look good. And she's made giant cakes and little cakes. She makes my favorite cake. For this event, she did this. And so now I have a whole paragraph where I just get to prove to you that my mom bakes like a pro. I'm going to give you an example for Dad. I'm going to say, Dad, because he's my subject of my paragraph, so he's going to be the subject of my sentence. And I'm going to tell you, not a characteristic, but I'm going to tell you about his main function. So I'm going to say he protects. And who does he protect? Excuse me. The squirrels in our yard. Now, isn't that a funny thought? Our yard. Hard to talk and write at the same time. So now I get to write a paragraph, an entire paragraph, on how Dad tries to keep the squirrels in our yard happy. He gives them nuts and seeds. He built a little hut out in the back. He takes pictures of them. He puts little water pans so they get water. And if it's cold, he sticks some wool yarn in the little hut that he made. And so I'm just going to take a whole paragraph and tell you about how he protects these squirrels in our yard. So I would like for you to take these suggested topics. Now, if you have a better topic, you are allowed to pitch it to your parent or your teacher. But you need to have 5 topics, and I want you to make 5 topic sentences. You don't have to write the paragraph. You're only writing topic sentences, but they have to meet these requirements. The subject of the topic has to be in the subject of the paragraph. And the verb cannot be a verb, excuse me. More coffee. It cannot be a be verb. And it needs to tell us something about the subject. So you kind of look at it as drawing an arrow back to the subject. And then the rest of the sentence you can be creative with. One more important thing I want you to avoid. Now, remember that list we were keeping? We had number 1 last week. We had avoid passive voice, right? I hope you're keeping that list. Number 2, we're going to say avoid be verbs. And if you want to write it, you would say especially in topic sentences. And I'm going to give you one more. I'm giving you 2 this week. Avoid there is or there are sentences. Okay? Now, you know what a lot of new writers, a lot of young students do when it's time for topic sentence time? Let's pretend I'm still writing my paragraph about squirrels and my dad. Here's what a lot of kids would do. They would say, there are, oh no, let's see here. Maybe that's a bad example. Yeah. There are lots of funny things my dad likes to do. And then they might talk about how he likes to protect squirrels and he plays with the squirrels in our yard. And then we continue talking. There's lots of problems with this. In this subject, there's nothing. It just says there. Now, is this actually a subject? Yes, that's a subject. It's correct. It's not wrong, but it's not really a good subject. Look at my verb. Does my verb say anything? No, it's just a verbal equal sign. And then there's not much to do with the rest of the sentence. Lots of funny things my dad likes to do. So we're going to practice, and I think this is going to be harder than you think it is. I like all my sketching around. So 5 topic sentences on these 5 topics in this manner. Okay? Now, your parent is going to edit these and you're going to correct them later. But the better you do the first time, the less you have to edit. And then you should have received an edited copy of your, or not a copy, hopefully your parent had time to edit your whodunit style paragraph. So you need to take that and take each one of their comments or edits and fix it, just like we did the first week. And so next week you need a clean copy of your revised whodunit style paragraph, and you need 5 topic sentences. All right, see you next week.